just to clarify, I got a little more information on VDOT. Mr. Brown will be here this evening. So if the board had things they wanted to put in front of him, we'll have that opportunity at our 7 o'clock meeting. All right, new and unfinished business. First on the list, special use permit 250358. Miss Bishop.
Hello. Okay, so I've obviously heard, as you all have, a lot throughout this process, a lot of references to the comprehensive plan, and I feel responsible as its steward. I just wanted to take a couple minutes to go over some comp plan information. And what I'm about to say is not directed at any particular project, any property, any area of the county, although some obviously feel it more than others. So the gray area we've been operating out of, it's becoming less and less gray as we continue to make progress on updating our plans and ordinances that guide the decisions, both funding and land use, that you will make. As staff, we are tasked with interpreting the comprehensive plan and the ordinances to assist your analysis of each proposal on a case-by-case basis. Staff initially prepared, as you know, we've been dealing with Monroe since about October of last year, so it's been quite a while. So initially we prepared a memo describing the justification for claiming Monroe's consistency with the comprehensive plan. By referencing individual statements, it's going to be natural to draw different conclusions and interpretations of the comprehensive plan. The fact that we're getting closer to the adoption of our zoning and subdivision ordinances is very encouraging, not only to staff, but hopefully to our appointed and our elected officials tasked with the decision making that affects our community members, our residents, and the direction that future growth, development, and management of that development takes. We've been utilizing our current draft as best as we can to provide guidance, although I would be remiss not to mention that it doesn't address all our issues, nor is it designed to. Taken in broken pieces, it would be difficult to make any solid recommendations. Instead, the comprehensive plan should be taken as a whole. Roadmap is the term you've heard a lot, to address the many different aspects that all communities need: housing, transportation, cultural, historic, environmental resources, while also identifying and supporting the unique needs of each community and maintaining their identities. You as a board, you're faced with many tough decisions, not only land use related. I'm certainly appreciative of the thorough consideration that you give, especially on the updates to the comprehensive plan, our zoning and subdivision ordinances that we have now spent years analyzing. I think we're coming up on 4 or 5. I certainly appreciate the community's interest in the comp plan and its purpose. Remind the board and everyone this is a living document, meaning that updates can be initiated at any time. It's required to be reviewed for updates every 5 years, which is coming up sooner than we think. I certainly would encourage anyone with input or feedback on any aspect of what we deal with to continue to stay involved. My office, Cody, my planner, we're both available. We certainly encourage public involvement. I believe that we're extremely lucky and unique in Nelson and how much our residents care. And I certainly admire how much people are prepared to advocate for their beliefs in their communities. Now getting to Monroe specifically. All the concerns heard, valid. Historically, engineering aspects of a proposal are flushed out through full site plan review if the land use is deemed appropriate through a special use permit approval. The Planning Commission and Board of Supervisors, through their review, they can always require additional analysis prior to making recommendations or decisions, or condition higher standards, as you might see here. We're also evaluating the review criteria for special use permits and our draft update to ensure clarity on what that means, not only to the community and the board, but applicants of the planning and zoning department as well. All that said, I'm saying all this because I want to ensure that the comprehensive plan is able to be utilized effectively and reiterate that we're always available to discuss, think outside the box, provide potential solutions, and always stay making improvements. So those are just some thoughts. And again, I appreciate the community's feedback. So again, you've seen this one quite a few times. You reviewed this at your board meeting on April 14th. And the conditions you see on the screen, number 9 was added based on feedback from the board and discussion with the applicant. So what you are looking to do today is make a motion potentially on how you would like to proceed. And I've drafted some motions that you should have in front of you. And applicant Justin Shemp is here as well. If you have questions for either me as staff or he as the applicant.
I had 2 questions. One, does this special use permit allow them to keep building, or is this very specific to this building?
So special use permit is going to be consistent with in general conformance with the site plan that was submitted as part of the application. And one of the conditions is that, let's see, number 6, any new structures affiliated with the special use permit shall be located only on that one parcel where the structure is proposed. Other associated non-structural issues such as trails and utilities may be located on the additional parcels. And one of the questions that has come up is, why are all these parcels included as part of the special use permit application if only one's being requested for the structure? So accessory uses such as utilities, trails, things like that, they're going to be approved on other parcels as well. But because they're part of the overall project of the Monroe Institute, should be included as part of the special use permit application. So that was the justification for that.
But including all these parcels does not mean that they will be continuing to build.
That is correct.
More
they would not be
structures on.
permitted to build any structures as part of the conference center use.
So my 2 questions turned into 3. I had Mr. Reed very quickly brushed on agricultural water, and then it kind of got shut down. And it made me think over the last couple weeks, say this is denied, what stops them from becoming a true agricultural entity or enterprise? Can they slap this size building up if it's in the guise of being agritourism?
So there would be a lot of factors that would need to be reviewed to make a determination like that. A lot of questions we would ask. So for agricultural uses, agritourism uses, some of the things you're looking at are scale. Is it impacting public health, safety, welfare? As you all know, we all know that's one of the big gray areas. So we would have to evaluate that proposal.
But possible.
Sure.
Okay. And then since our last meeting, was there any addition to trails keeping people off the roads?
There has not been, to my knowledge, since the last meeting about establishing a trail plan. You can certainly incorporate that if you choose to move forward with the motion for approval as an additional condition.
Okay. For now, that's all my questions. Any questions for Dylan? Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Shemp? All right, surprised by that. All right, any discussion, thoughts, comments?
I'd like to start if I could.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody who came out and gave comments today. Thank you to everybody, the many people that sent written comments, and clearly there's a lot of concern about this. I'm going to apologize ahead of time for being a little bit repetitive on what a lot of the folks who spoke today have already said, but it's my job to discuss and mention those things that are affecting the decisions that I might be making. So I'm going to do that, but I'll try not to repeat any of them. The overwhelming majority of comments from county residents on this clearly express a strong opposition to the project. I can summarize the objections very quickly as water, appropriate scale, incompatibility with agricultural zoning by right, spoilage of environment, agricultural and rural character, incompatibility with the new comprehensive plan, incompatibility with established residential community, and incompatibility with the county's special use decision criteria, which I will bring up at the end. Safety and security, increased commercial traffic, increased dust for residents, insufficient road maintenance, increased night light and noise pollution, and a confrontational attitude in more recent history between the Monroe Institute and the New Land community. So I'm going to talk about each one of these and highlight some of the comments. All of these highlights are actually comments that the public has voiced at one time or another. Water. Of all the written comments I received opposing this project, water is mentioned in every single one. There's approximately 105 residents in the New Land community and about 10 others who rely on the New Land road system for access to their residences. Adding the load of a proposed project and the program attendees and staff population and the commercial food services needed to support it will more than double the amount of water usage in this small community. The applicant has suggested that the existing well would be sufficient for the expansion. I believe this is extremely optimistic on their part. I don't believe that the existing well is sufficient to increase water availability by perhaps more than 5 times. The effects on local residents as wells is going to be substantial, if not catastrophic. Remember that the hydrology report provided by the applicant gave no consideration to increased water usage estimates or its consequences. Remember, the area in question is zoned agricultural. Note that there is currently no place in the county that a development of this size and scale can occur except in A1 agriculture. There is not sufficient water infrastructure in the county anywhere currently that could support this level of water consumption. Let that sink in. Since doing that, I realized that I might be mistaken. Colleen might be the only place where it would be ready. I didn't check that out, but so far I think that's true. Yes, that's a bigger problem for development in Nelson County, but for now, for today and the near future, our agricultural lands countywide that support farmers, residences, and provide overarching sense of rural aesthetics that our residents cherish are vulnerable to this scale of development. Any developer can put a straw down into the ground in a property zoned agricultural and suck out as much water as they want or can get. That water is not just lost to the aquifer and to the residents, it is lost for the agricultural purposes that A1 zoning is meant to protect. Appropriate scale. A 59,000 square foot building is twice the size of the Lovingston Food Lion, 3 times the size of Bold Rock. The size and the number of parking spaces required and the space for commercial deliveries would nearly be the size of the 151 frontage parking lot at Valley Green Shopping Center in Nelliesford. You can consider this an extension of the existing TMI facilities, that being the Monroe Institute, but you can just as easily see it as an extension of the New Land community itself. It'll put additional strains on county roads, VDOT, Virginia Department of Transportation Services, and emergency and fire and rescue services. It'll triple the TMI-related pedestrian traffic in the New Land community on the New Land road system and all common lands shared by TMI in the New Land community. This project is not scaled for wellness. Health and mental health especially require relationships and support at a personal scale based on experience, skill, knowledge, and trust. This project is clearly scaled for commercial advantage and for the advantage of its investors, who are not either community members nor residents of the county who have scaled this project based on their wants and needs. And because the decision makers are basically investors, their future decisions on how the development will be managed is only limited by what the SUP does not allow or restricts, for now. A different investment strategy could result in a subsequent SUP application by another applicant based on existing uses. In the world of multi-million-dollar investments, dominoes tend to fall to the advantage of the investor, with little consideration for what has been lost over time and what the land once was. Spoilage of environmental, agricultural, and rural character. The lands currently owned and occupied by the residents of the New Land community in TMI currently rank as outstanding in terms of ecological core rankings. Think water, think land usage and human impacts, think noise, think light pollution, shielded or not, think traffic and noise and air and water pollution that development brings. Approve this project and you can erase these lands from what was once ecologically and agriculturally outstanding. All of the lands under this SUP will lose its status as primarily agricultural. That's 56 acres, not just the 7 which will support the structure and could potentially house all the infrastructure. That's 8 times the land necessary for what is actually proposed. Ironically, it's this character of the land that TMI really depends upon to deliver a positive experience to its customer base. It's this character which does at least as much for the wellness of the TMI customers as the programs offered. It's the very character which this project will significantly compromise. Incompatibility with the new comprehensive plan. Residents have done an excellent job at calling out how this project is incompatible with Nelson County's comprehensive plan. A comp plan is, as Jesse, Cameron, and I have seen in the class that we're taking on supervisor certification, a policy guide for the community. It guides multiple programs and activities on all land within the jurisdiction. It provides a to-do list for legislators and staff. Its value is that it promotes reasonable and well-informed decisions based on studies and public input. It outlines where we're going and how we're going to get there, and it sets priorities for land use decisions in the community. Briefly, the goals of our comprehensive plan are, among others, to protect rural character and environment, protect the natural environment, preserve rural character and heritage, encourage new development in designed growth areas so that existing infrastructure can be more efficiently used and rural lands will be protected from development. These have been well addressed today already. None of the relatively few public comments received in support of the project mentioned compatibility with the comprehensive plan, with the exception of the applicants. Neither did members of the Planning Commission give much attention to them in their discussions. I attended all of those hearings, which they did, and whenever this was brought up. However, our Planning and Zoning Department states that in the SUP application material that the core concept of the comprehensive plan is to ensure the protection of the county's rural landscape and economy by maintaining open space, scenic views, and agricultural uses. The comprehensive plan is a promise that we make to the community that will determine future land use in the community. And I thank Mr. Averett, member of the Planning Commission, for that statement. In my opinion, and the opinion of so many in the community, if the comprehensive plan had a vote on this issue, it would be to highlight how this project is incompatible with its goals and objectives, and its vote would be a no, loud and clear. As one of our instructors noted last Friday at our class, if you don't pay attention to the direction set in the comp plan, what use is it? Well, it only has the use that we choose to attribute to it. It is only as good as your promise. Incompatibility with established residential community. I know from 40 years of personal experience that the Monroe Institute and the New Land community have, until recently, been good neighbors. This proposed special use permit has brought some recent and some long-standing issues to the fore. TMI has lost a great deal of goodwill in its relationship with New Land communities. To point to common road conditions in need of repair, resurfacing, continual dust from unpaved surfaces that the community raises as a continual issue problem. But this project has raised the level of continual stress and concern. It touches everyone. It doesn't matter how you feel about the special use permit. It has added stress and concern to everybody. It's now part of the relationship, part of the environment, part of the texture, part of the day-to-day concerns of the community, the administration, and the staff at TMI. This is in itself a result of a significant change in direction initiated by TMI. Many residents find it incompatible with their community values. As you know, the proposed entrance for the facility is the same entrance that is used by the New Land community to access homes on Roberts Mountain Road and Rainbow Ridge Road. There is an existing road use agreement that requires 75% of the New Land residents to approve of any road improvements. It's extremely unlikely that 3/4 of the residents will agree to this, so it's likely that this could result in legal action. This situation places additional strain on residents and on the ongoing relationship between New Land and the goodwill of TMI. But the real question is this. A 59,000 square foot conference center, a hotel and food service facility, and commercial gift shop, and parking and sewer and water infrastructure, are these compatible with the established residential community? The 5-to-1 majority of county residents that contacted me in writing think not. Safety and security. Many New Land residents have expressed their concerns regarding safety and security and potential problems for Sheriff's Department, emergency services, and fire and rescue that accompany 1,000 untethered visitors a year to a residential rural community. Incompatibility with the county's special use permit decision criteria, which is the crux of today's decision. This is the process that our county code and existing ordinances and our Department of Planning and Zoning put in place for good decision-making on land use in the county. 1, the use shall not tend to change the character and established pattern of development or of the area or community in which it proposes to locate. Well, yes, it does. The use shall be in harmony with the uses permitted by right in the zoning district and shall not affect adversely the use of neighboring property. Well, the use is clearly not in harmony with the uses permitted by right in A1 agricultural zoning and does absolutely adversely affect the use of neighboring property. 3, the proposed use shall be adequately served by essential public or private services such as streets, drainage facilities, fire protection, public or private water and sewer facilities. Adequately? Questionable. Does it challenge and stretch already limited resources and pose new problems for road use, car and pedestrian traffic and maintenance, water, fire, and rescue and emergency services? Yes, it does. The proposed use shall not result in the destruction, loss, or damage of any feature determined to be of significant ecological, scenic, or historical importance. Well, the removal of this total acreage from agricultural uses central to an area recognized of high ecological integrity is significant. The location on a fairly prominent ridgetop in a rural agricultural area would significantly alter scenic values of this part of the Rockfish Valley. And the desecration of an 1800s graveyard with historical significance immediately adjacent to the development is also significant. Thank you to a local landowner who pointed that out. I don't believe that's been mentioned before. It's most interesting that upon reviewing all of the comments received on the project, both Planning Commission and Board of Supervisors, not a single comment refutes any of the objections in response to the content of the comprehensive plan or special use permit criteria. Objections were voiced by 2 different members of the Planning Commission, but there was really no discussion of how this was in keeping with either the comprehensive plan or the special use permit criteria. I submit that these objections that have been presented today are not subjective. They are simply factual. So for all these reasons, I would like to make a motion that we deny special use permit 250260 Monroe Institute Conference Center.
I have a motion.
Madam Chair, in an effort to not get into parliamentary back and forth, let's just hear that second to the end, and then if there's any supplemental motions after that, just to make this simple. And so that the new guy understands when he makes a motion to deny, a no is a yes, and a yes is a no. It's that double negative thing, so.
Which I thought we said we were gonna try not to do.
Try not to do double negatives.
Yeah, I took my direction from planning and zoning. Yeah,
Which it could die with the, from lack of a second.
It could die for lack of correct.
All right, so I have a motion. Do I have a second? Hearing none. Any further discussion, or I'll entertain another motion.
Madam Chair, I gotta make sure I have the right one, the staff. There are 9 conditions, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
I would love to add some walking I really would like to
Okay.
promote people not walking on the road or in the community.
Could staff say publicly what that should read?
Really shouldn't be a surprise. I brought it up 4 or 5 times.
Dylan, if you said specifically, maybe I could write it down. A walking path plan.
Site plan shall include a walking paths plan or a plan to address walking paths.
Plan to address walking paths.
And what's the goal? Walking paths to ensure.
Deter walking on
Deter
the roads.
walking, pedestrian walking on roadways and on neighboring properties.
So, condition 10 would potentially read, site plan shall include a redundant plan
Using
to
it
address
Walking
walking,
paths
walk paths,
to deter pedestrian access to existing roadways and neighboring properties.
walk, okay. And neighboring. properties. All right,
Will there be any mention of enforcement?
Conditions in and of themselves are enforceable by the zoning department, so we wouldn't approve a site plan unless and until that walking path plan was included.
Madam Chair, as I have that potential 10th condition, it would read roughly, site plan shall include plan to address walk path to deter walking access on roads and neighboring properties. So that we understand the intent of that. When you are prepared, I am prepared to make a motion to approve.
I have additional conditions I'd like to consider.
Which ones?
I would like to consider that all construction and infrastructure connected with the project be confined to the site parcel 33-3-2D.
Does that conflict with the paths? Just question on that.
33
It's in 6.
It means we'd have to remove 6. Okay.
I think you could just remove the second sentence.
So looking at 6, we would be removing potentially the other associated non-structural usage such as trails and utilities may be located on.
Can we delete the word utilities?
Isn't water on a different parcel?
I'm suggesting that all of the utilities be confined to the one parcel.
So
I have a
you would
question.
want
Including
to
water.
say all new conference center structures and utilities affiliated with this shall be located on.
So you're asking them to drill a different well that could hit a different place and impact more different areas of people
I
than
th-
what the current one does?
I think it's
That's a
inevitable.
much more predictable?
I think it's inevitable they're going to have to drill a well because the current well was sized to a development that only, served 20 people. This is going to serve not just an increase in people, but an increase in food service.
Then
and everything else.
this would trickle into Department of Drinking Water and into water containment, if that makes sense. So when I ran a community down in Danville, we had a 70-unit home community, and it ran off of a well that was 20 gallons a minute. There was a little bit of a storage issue, so we added storage, had to chlorinate, dechlorinate. That is more than likely going to be their pathway forward. If I'm speculating, if you have that much usage, it turns into a containment concept, and a Department of Drinking Water. Just FYI.
Yeah, I'm asking that be confined to the parcel where the structure is.
That's,
Now, I'm not qualified to make that determination at this time. I can see Mr. Shemp itching a little bit if you want to hear from him on that aspect. If not, certainly don't.
I err on the side of, the utilities, electric's gonna be coming from probably not just that parcel, but from other parcels, and I would certainly encourage them to utilize the existing well.
If the health department determines that the existing well is not sufficient, then what option do they have but to drill a well?
No, the containment.
I'm sorry,
Containment,
which is?
which is where you would produce a containment system. Impoundment, yeah, or not a surface impoundment, but yeah, it would be some type of, usually. And then it goes into the Department of Drinking Water, and there's a chlorinate process and all. I don't think we want to get into the weeds of those nuances.
I would agree.
I don't think that would be wise for us to have those conditions in there.
That's why a separate well makes sense.
But the separate well might not satisfy what you're asking.
There, with water in question, there's a slight predictability on if hopefully no one's affected, but if you keep drilling wells in other places,
You're gonna hit a vein.
yeah,
Madam Chair, I understand the intent behind Mr. Reed's adjustment on that condition. I think that might be getting a little bit too, I don't know, I feel like it's not necessary. Unless if Ernie is going to make a supplemental motion on condition 6 to address that, it may be wise of the board just to take a general consensus. I'm just trying to get us to a resolution on this.
Well, as a point of order, you can make your motion without.
Addressing his.
Exactly.
Correct. Okay. So Madam Chair, can I just read that motion of approval and let's go line, condition by condition for
Sure.
simplicity?
That's fair.
Okay, I have one
Oh.
other,
All right, so we're on 6.
I have one other,
Okay.
I would ask that the special use permit only apply to site parcel 33-32D.
Okay.
And that the other lands would then remain A1 without a special use permit connected to them. That would,
30.
number one, that would confine the impacts to that property. And the rest of the properties would remain in A1.
do you have the map?
No. Yeah, there's no
See,
zooming in.
If all of the impacts are focused on that one property, then the other 6, I believe, that are also included in this need not be part of the special use permit. And those areas then could remain as A1 agriculture unbounded by a special use permit, which would be useful in the future in terms of land use issues that could come up in the future.
That's the wrong one.
I guess my question with your intent with that is, wouldn't subjecting all those parcels to the special use permit also bring in all the whatever things, uses were proffered away and make those proffers inclusive across all those parcels. And it's-
I'm looking to limit the impacts and the special use permit to a single property.
Okay, so.
Because my feeling is that having them bleed over into those adjoining A1 properties is not necessary,
So-
nor is it necessarily beneficial.
Except for my walking trails.
Because they are in A1, there's no problem with walking trails.
Yeah, I don't see, I don't think walking trails.
There's no objection to people walking on A1 agricultural.
The reason why I say that is if it was inclusive of, if these conditions were inclusive of all the parcels, it would also eliminate weddings, festivals, concerts, blah, 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 etc. And
Well, I'd like to
me-
keep that.
so you like, I know, but you wanted to get rid of all those on all the
No,
parcels.
I would like to get rid of the ones which include the impacts, the direct impacts of this to be other parcels than the one where the site is. So what I'm trying to do is, given that if this motion should pass, we're going to be in a situation to have to deal with the impacts. The fact that they be limited to one parcel and not be spread across all of the parcels is extremely important to me because those parcels are currently A1. And it does seem to me, although the applicant may not agree, that it's altogether possible and feasible and perhaps more beneficial to the community that all the impacts on that be limited to that one parcel and not the others. There's been lots of people who say that this project is incompatible with A1 zoning. There's been lots of comments about that. I'm sympathetic to those, and I believe that to limit the amount of A1 agriculture under a special use permit under this would be a prudent, perhaps, way of abetting some of that. Because it's possible, I think it should be considered.
I have a question for clarity.
Sure.
I was taking this as we're putting restrictions on it, and by not including some of them, it's open season for the ones we don't include.
Well, we can go through.
Does that make sense?
Well,
So,
we can go through them one by one and figure out which ones would fit that
But I'm
model that I'm proposing we include in the conditions.
I guess I do see where you're coming from, but in my mind, all the parcels included is more restrictive than including one, just doing the one. I mean,
Okay,
just
okay. Fast forward 10 years. Monroe Institute is no longer there, they sell it.
okay.
Okay? If those special uses are not included on all of those, if they are included, whether they are or not, it's open season for an applicant to apply for a special use permit to do whatever they wish to do. At this point, those are A1 agriculture under our current zoning
Right.
ordinances, okay? If they're A1 agriculture under our revised zoning ordinances, there may be in the future different consideration given to the primacy of A1 in the county than we currently have in our ordinances. I can't say that for sure, but we even had a brief discussion about tabling all special use permits until we had our new ordinances in place. Okay, it didn't go anywhere, but we mentioned it, and it was definitely a concern. And there is a concern that sometime in the future, this could end up being something that it is not proposed to be at this point. And I think
We're in danger of that every
limiting the special use permit to one parcel keeps the rest of it zoned A1 without any encumbrances. And I
You're
think
saying
that makes
limited to
sense.
34-12-2?
Yes.
Which one?
That's where you must go with that.
And that would, of course, include the road entrance as well. That would require that the road entrance be on Rocky Road instead of using the common road, which now is part of the new road use agreement. And it would avoid the litigation, which is sure to follow with the number one condition that we have already. And I would much rather not see that litigation transpire. Already, the relationship between the community and TMI is not good. It would only make it worse It would only drag it out. It would make a bad situation worse.
Madam Chair.
Okay, we're
I
gonna,
could go back to condition one.
Yep.
I feel like, and I understand the intent of Supervisor Reed in trying to make this potentially more restricted by virtue of eliminating, these other parcels from being part of the special use permit. I mean, at this time, I feel like this would be more restrictive than what currently is. And I mean, what we know, what we think A1 will look like, we don't know. There are some statutory things that will live on, such as agritourism, farm breweries, wineries, etc. Those things would continue and live on with this. But if we included, obviously, that parcel, that especially that point where it mentions weddings, festivals, and concerts, that definitely eliminates a lot of people aggregating to those areas for potential outdoors. I believe that we should continue to leave all the parcels related to the special use permit, because I do think that makes it a lot more restrictive, and it allows for staff and everybody to be able to enforce this, in my opinion, a little bit easier.
I think it's easier to enforce in a confined area in 7 acres instead of 53.
Maybe.
If I may.
Yeah.
What I'm hearing. As Supervisor Reed, you're looking at it from a perspective of it's less restrictive because it's taking up less land area and less A1.
Yes.
You're looking at it from a perspective of if we include all these other parcels, then we know no weddings,
Right.
farm breweries,
Whatever,
those
yeah,
other
the
types
things that
of
are listed
uses
in
would
proper
be
way.
restricted from being permitted on those other parcels, whereas now they're by right. So I think it's just
Yeah.
conflicting perspectives on
Mhm.
what restriction looks like.
Right, and
so,
Which I understand both of them. I'm just trying to offer perspective.
sure, and I think that's where I feel like this would be the most restrictive and allow for the elimination of a lot more aggregation of people if we leave it as is. Of course, Madam Chair, in order for us to get to a resolution, we generally either need to get a consensus or start getting motions, depending on how
Yeah.
far we go down these.
I would submit that if that one parcel is not available for any of those things, that it doesn't really allow them to do it anywhere else, because the key to all that are the participants that are being housed there. And so I see them as being a same thing. I think that if you restrict it on that one site, that in effect, they would not be able to go to you and say, well, we would like to do this here, but the reception's going to be in the, at the event center, okay? Or the people are all staying at the event center. Those things would further complicate the situation, and I don't think they would be able to get a permit for those things. That's how I see it.
Madam Chair, can we start getting to consensuses on these things?
yeah,
Do we have a motion?
Yes, there's a motion to approve, and we're going line by line through the conditions. I believe, condition number 1 should stay the same. Madam Chair, if you want to just get a general consensus on that. We don't have to say like I, but generally,
well, I mean, I guess that's the
I guess
easiest.
that's probably the
Can we
easiest.
see the conditions again?
So we're conditioned. So with the motion, I'm leaving all the parcels in as is, which is 33.3, 2D, 34.12, 3, 34A, 35, 34.12, 4, 33.5, 1C, 34.12, 1, and 31.12, 2. So mine is still all encompassing of all the parcels located at the Monterey with the conditions as follows. Condition number 1, I believe that one should stay. Does anybody have any protest to condition 1?
I do.
Okay.
I've already voiced it.
I think sounds like condition 1's still good. Condition number 2. Anybody have any issues with condition number 2?
Well, number 1, what happens if New Land Community Association does not approve
It
the
is a
widening
concern.
of the 18-foot?
Well, it's litigation. That's what Mr.
Then it's a
Reed is
then it's a
indicating.
lawsuit.
Yeah, so that is the risk that they'll have to deal with.
Yeah, I would like to mention that very early on in the very first presentations that we had, there was a mention of the possible entrance being a separate entrance on Rocky Road. And I still think that's the best alternative regardless.
They don't lose that opportunity with the special use permit.
They don't lose it, but they would end up having to do that anyway if they lose up that litigation, or if they
Right.
choose to avoid litigation, all they have to do is meet VDOT requirements.
Right. Okay. Madam
Lighting.
Chair, we good with number 1? Okay, number 2, site lighting shall be full cutoff dark sky compliant fixtures, directional glare shielded at no taller than 15 feet. I think that's reasonable. Condition number 3, the line of sight looking northwest from the entrance of Roberts Mountain Road onto Rocky Road shall be improved to meet a minimum line of sight required by stopping sight distance per VDOT regulations. Number 4, if a fire suppression storage tank is required, the tank shall be screened from view of Roberts Mountain Road with screening landscaping that will achieve at least half the tank height and at 10 years growth.
I do have a question.
Okay.
It says if it's required, but it was presented to us that it was happening. Right?
I don't know.
I think that's, yes, we know now is that fire tank will be required.
So
Scratch the-
should we take, if a fire suppression storage tank is required, how about
Fire suppression tank
the
storage.
fire suppression tank shall be screened from view?
Okay, I will, so that would be scratching if A. The fire suppression storage tank shall be screened from view. Right, okay,
Are we scratching, with screening landscape that will achieve at least half the tank height at 10 years growth? Or are we?
I think that
are
needs
we-
to stay, that we need that still, so that it can screen.
So you're just saying the fire suppression storage tank?
Yeah, it basically
Shall be
shall be screened, and with that.
There's no question, there is one.
Yeah. Alright,
Was what I was getting at.
yep. Rainwater capture features, rain gardens or similar shall be installed at the roof downspouts to improve SWM capture and infiltration. I think that's good. This particular number 6, we had a discussion on any new conference center structures affiliated with the special use permit shall be located on tax map parcel 3412-2. Other associated non-structural uses such as trails and utilities may be located on the additional parcels 3412-3, 33-3, 2D, 34A, 35, 3412-4, 3351C, 3412-1. This was a item for discussion. Mr. Reed, what was it that you said? You wanted the utilities
I-
to be located at,
At this point, it was delete the second sentence, and any new conference center structures and utilities affiliated shall be located on 3412-2,
Oh.
was what I had.
that's pretty tight, you're saying.
So
And I would say if you needed to clarify, that would be for water and sewage, you could add water and sewage utilities.
I believe those are the only utilities. I mean, electric is
Yeah.
different scenario.
I mean, and that, I think, being mindful of whatever the designs are, which I don't know if they've gotten any approvals from Virginia Department of Health or those entities at this time. I'm sure this would escalate to the DEQ depending on what type of system it's gonna be. I don't think it would be, obviously, the best system is the one designed with the least amount of failure potential. That's always the case when it comes to, especially to sewer. So I wouldn't want to limit them, especially on that if there's a system that exists well that has a less chance of a failure rate over time. And I don't know what those
I
are.
certainly disagree, but
You want a septic system that fails?
no, I want
You
I
it all
want
in that
a,
one
I want a
spot?
septic and water system that is confined on one parcel.
Okay,
Pretty clear.
I understand.
Yeah.
No, I was just presenting wherever it designs, in an ideal world is a product that fails the least.
In an ideal world,
Yeah.
the special use permit would be denied.
I understand. So when it,
let's
alright,
please.
so I think we should leave it with all the associated parcels as it relates to utilities. I think that's leave that discretion to be had with them and the design people. But I am just one person on this front, so.
Was this where we need to vote on a consensus for this portion?
For condition number 6,
Yeah.
I believe we leave it as it's written.
Mr. Parr?
You're not gonna change it. Have me approve this regardless.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
you
I
can leave it the way it
understand.
is.
All right.
Leave it
Mr.
the way it is.
Lanahan?
Leave it the way it is.
Excuse me?
Yeah, leave it the way it is.
Okay. Number 7.
I think that's a good one. Make sure we eliminate any outside stuff. Yes, there's amplified music and that being restricted to all the parcels. Any?
Do we need to be specific that this restriction is to all parcels? Again? Or,
I feel like the first portion of the motion, which says all the parcels,
all right,
should circumvent that. I know there's a little bit of redundancy in here.
well,
I like to call it clarity.
Clarity. There you go. That's nothing wrong with that. The point, condition number 8, the existing tree line between taps map 34A 31 and 341212 is to remain. In addition, a minimum 3-foot tall berm with evergreen plantings at least 5 feet height at installation shall be added between the new parking area and the property line. Anybody have any questions on that one?
I don't.
9, the property associated with the special use shall not be eligible for local property tax exemptions for charitable or religious use or any other related statutes. Definitely that one needs to stay. And then we have the additional condition of 10, site plan shall include plan to address walk paths to deter walking of roadways and access to neighboring properties. Okay.
I have a motion.
That is a motion.
Most convoluted motion of all time.
Sorry.
It's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Can we have the motion read, please?
Which sure can.
I just want to make sure that
All right.
it's got all the things.
I feel pretty confident unless you want me to do it.
Just do it.
Okay. I will do it. Madam Chair, the motion is as read. I move that the Nelson County Board of Supervisors approve special use permit request number 250260 for a conference center use in the A1 agricultural district on tax map parcels 3332D, 34123, 34A35, 34124, 3351C, 34121, and 34122 located at the Monroe Institute with conditions as shown on the screen and edited as read. 1. Prior to issuance of certificate of occupancy for the expanded use, the access road, Roberts Mountain Road, shall be widened to a minimum of 18 foot and repaved. This shall extend to the new entrance proposed for the expanded facility. If such expansion requires an approval from the New Land Community Association and that vote is unsuccessful, this condition shall be void. Condition number 2, site lighting shall be full cut off, dark sky compliant fixtures, directional and glare shielding, and mounted at no taller than 15 feet. Condition number 3, the line of sight looking northwest from the entrance of Roberts Mountain Road onto Rocky Road shall be improved to meet a minimum line of sight required by stopping sight distance per VDOT regulations. Condition number 4, the fire suppression storage tank shall be screened from view of Roberts Mountain Road with screening, landscaping that will achieve at least half the tank height at 10 years of growth. Condition number 5, rainwater capture features, rain gardens or similar, shall be installed at the roof downspouts to improve SWM capture and infiltration. Condition number 6, any new conference center structures affiliated with the special use permit shall be located on tax map parcel 34122. Other associated non-structural uses such as trails and utilities may be located on the additional parcels 34123, 3332D, 34A35, 34124, 3351C, 34121. Condition number 7. Any uses on the property affiliated with this special use permit shall either be associated with the primary purpose of the facility. Weddings, festivals, and concerts are not permitted. No events shall include outdoor amplified music. Condition number 8, the existing tree line, tax map 34A 31 and 341212 is to remain. In addition, a minimum 3-foot tall berm with new evergreen plantings, at least 5 feet height at installation, shall be added between the new parking area and the property line. Condition number 9, the property associated with this special use permit shall not be eligible for local property tax exemptions for charitable or religious use or any other related statutes. In addition to this is condition number 10, site plan shall include plan to address walk path to deter walking on the roads and limiting access to neighboring properties.
All right, I had a motion, and I had a second. Discussion.
Yeah, I have a request. And one of my critiques of the Planning Commission was that there was no discussion by the Planning Commission in their meeting to move this to the Board of Supervisors about how this application fulfilled the 4 requirements that all applicants for special use permits should be reviewed. And I'm asking the other supervisors to please weigh in on this, because this is an opportunity for such a discussion to happen, how they feel that the special use permit application before us, even with the conditions presented, fulfill those criteria.
I would like to say I've also been at all the meetings, and I strongly disagree. We spent hours, it felt like, talking about each individual thing. I was the one that read them off, if we had the minutes.
Right, but the discussion that followed was very,
I'm talking
very
the
brief.
first planning commission meeting associated with this. There was a strong debate on those 4 principles.
However, that was not the one that gave rise to this motion. That was one that was withdrawn, and there was another one that came after that. Those don't apply. It was a different application for a different special use permit.
Madam Chair, call the question.
No, I'm asking for, we're supposed to have discussion on this. I would like to hear from you, and you, how this fulfills the special use criteria. I would love to. That's the whole
All right.
purpose
Read,
of this.
read it. Please.
The use shall not tend to change the character and established pattern of development of the area or community in which it proposes to locate.
Would you like me to start, or you want Jesse to
I
start?
would just like to hear from you.
I do not believe it is contradictory to that area. Monroe Institute has been there a long time. I don't think we need.
Do you have anything to say?
Monroe Institute's been there for years.
Monroe Institute was there before New Land, and Monroe Institute helped establish New Land. People that move to New Land understand Monroe Institute is there and is operating a business. It is, though the number of people increases, I don't feel strongly that it is changing the established pattern of development
For the community, I'd like to highlight.
that was
The name
established by Monroe.
I'm highlighting
Okay.
the word community.
Do you have anything to add on A?
I'm not gonna go down the list of those. I'm just gonna be pretty concise. This is agricultural land. This is a rural community. This does not meet or fit either of those. I'm voting no. You all are splitting hairs. And I feel that, in addition to those, I'm a little concerned about some fire and safety issues, but the bottom line for me is, this is ag land, this is a rural community, and this facility has no business in that location.
All right, read number B, or letter B.
The use shall be in harmony with the uses permitted by right in the zoning district and shall not affect adversely the use of neighboring property.
Madam Chair, this is a new thing that we're doing here, addressing the four things and going line by line, but I will say this. As relates to the zoning in this situation, look at zoned agriculture. You can have 1,000-person events on zoned agriculture. This eliminates a lot of that potential. You can have amplified music. This eliminates that potential. And as it relates to that harmony, those things can exist and be of more intense use. By doing this, eliminates some of those potentials. That is where I have been this entire time. I still stay in that.
May I
I don't want to
flag,
go into this.
may I
rebuttal
flag
back and
the
forth.
fact that this
getting-
is a center to house 90 people. That is a use not permitted by right under agricultural zoning.
You can build a house with 90 bedrooms, and there's nothing that limits that.
See?
Does it adversely affect the use of neighboring property,
No.
the safety?
Mr. Reed, Madam Chair, we're getting into a point
Mr.
where...
Rutherford.
No, Madam Chair.
I'm
we need
speaking to
call
safety.
The question.
This
We
is a
have
time for
never-
discussion.
Mr. Reed, you're
This-
out of order.
I'm not out of order. The chair decides who's out of order,
That's
not
right.
you,
That
Mr.
is
Rutherford.
true.
Let me just
That's
remind
true.
you of that.
C.
The proposed use shall adequately be served by essential public or private services such as streets, drainage facilities, fire protection, and public or private water and sewer facilities.
Madam Chair, it has to meet or exceed state statutory requirements on this front. No matter what direction whether it was by right or by special use permit. And I believe that will be proven.
One thing that I mentioned a minute ago was something that Mr. Reed mentioned in his very well composed concerns is fire and safety. And I know there have been some discussions at EMS council meetings that I wasn't able to attend, but I know that Curtis Sheets is here, and if it is okay with the chair, I would like to hear from Mr. Sheets on some of the fire and EMS concerns with this community, if that's okay. I don't mean to put you on the spot, but if you wouldn't mind coming up and that's what I've asked, yes, sir, and I haven't been told no by the chair, so I guess it's okay.
What's in the question?
I would just like to hear your thoughts on any concerns that may arise with this location for a facility such as this.
Well, from the EMS side, I think it would be probably negligible with 100 people, but on the fire side, it would be, for me, would be concerning, just simply because it takes us so long to get there. NFPA would require, and I'm sure Mr. Schimpf has already met those requirements, at least 1 million gallons in storage for 60,000 square feet. Where we would fail, just being quite candidly, your system of volunteers and career providers, we would not be able to meet the turnout requirements. We couldn't put enough staffed people on scene in the allotted number of minutes, even using the rural standard. We could not meet those standards for fire suppression, so we would fail on personnel and apparatus, but we may have enough water. That's how I would predict it would go down.
If that's the case, then how do we do any building in Nelson County at all? I mean, if he's not able to meet this, then how do you address Renaissance Ridge? How do you address any of the other new construction that may be
The
happening?
difference would be time of response due to proximity, pressurized hydrants, that would be crucial. And then additionally, and we have to think about this on the mountain with the large structures, you have to hit different main lines of distribution. You can't just hit one hydrant and hope that you're gonna put out 60,000 square foot structure. It's gotta be, you need multiple water sources, and that may be in the plan. I've not reviewed any of this, and I don't normally do that, so you asked me to talk, so there it is. But I don't think it would be different, to your point. I don't think it would turn out much differently at any 60,000 square foot in rural Nelson County. But you're asking me what it would be like at this facility if it were to happen. That's what it would be like. It would be slightly better at Bold Rock because we can get there faster. Still have the same issue of that size structure, no pressurized hydrants close by,
So that would be a scenario in 95% of Nelson
I was
County.
gonna say
95% of Nelson County would not be able to have an equestrian center and satisfy those needs.
I would think that's probably right, yeah.
No.
The NFPA standards
Thank
for
you.
insurance.
Yeah, thank you.
You wanna read D?
The proposed use shall not result in the destruction, loss, or damage of any feature determined to be of significant ecological, scenic, or historic importance. I spoke to ecological and historic and scenic. I'm wondering if you have any comments on those.
The Monroe Institute has proven that they're good stewards around them in terms of maintaining the agriculture look as well as the foliage. I'm sure they would like to maintain that.
Foliage is not ecology.
It's part of it,
I'm pretty sure it's part of it.
by
Well-
definition, part of it.
I'm done.
I was done on A.
Did
It's not a lot of
Did you
discussion.
have questions or anything for Mr. Shin?
I do not.
Does anybody have any thoughts?
No, I'm ready for the question.
All right. I think we should roll call vote
I
this
think that'd be
one.
wise.
Mr. Reed?
No.
Mr. Farr?
No.
Mr. Rutherford?
Yes.
Mr. Lenahan?
Yes.
Dr. Lee?
Yes.
Good luck.
Realize my kid just failed school
Okay. Our next on new and unfinished business rezoning 250339 R1 to M1 to M2 industrial.
Alright, so this is another one you've seen more than once. So this is the rezoning at the cold storage. Just show you the real quick. Here's your zoning map. Outlined in blue are the subject parcels. And here are shown different uses for those parcels. So you can see the one on the corner, yellow, underlined, that's R1, the rest is M1 industrial. So proffers that were developed between staff and the applicant are shown on the screen. Again, you have draft motions. You reviewed this one on April 14th as well and took no action at the time. The applicant has made a request that the board make a final determination on this one. So again, you've got some draft motions in front of you. One shows approval as presented, one is approval of the M1 lots only, and one is denial. Or however that needs to be worded. Makes sense. And Mr. Hale is here again as well, if you have any more questions for him as well.
Do I have the new one or the old one?
There's only one of those.
Oh, okay, good. So I guess I'll start because I'm the one that started the kerfuffle in the first place. I felt like I was taking my planning commission training to heart and we're not supposed to consider who it is bringing it to us. And my deep down goal is Arrington is that's a well-traveled road. And I don't want to discount how much cleaning up has happened. My concern is that that portion that's clearly residential not become a junkyard when one day it's sold. I would love Arrington to be beautiful. It is actually that road is how you get to a lot of the South District. And I don't want in any way to discount what you've done but what Mr. Hale has done to beautify the area and Nelson. My other concern was, our current zoning regulations aren't great, and there's no height limits, and there's no regulation, and so that's why I just wanted to pump the brakes for a second. It wasn't truly against it. I just wanted more guardrails. I wanted it more clearly thought out for the future of making it a beautiful area. This seems right for mixed zoning. And that was my intention. And there just wasn't a lot of discussion about that at the Planning Commission meeting. And truly actually still hasn't had a lot of a discussion about it. And it's a lot of mixed emotions because there's a lot of trust for the person that brought it, and it's for the property, and that one day will change hands most likely, and it's grandfathered in, and in 20 years there could be a junkyard back there again, and that's my main concern with this situation, including the house portion in the rezoning. So that's my thoughts. That's all I really got to say.
I spoke out in favor of approving this rezoning. I think it's commendable to the applicant that he intended to not just do the physical labor to clean it up, but to clean it up in terms of its relationship to land use and zoning in the county. And I think those are both honorable things that he's done, and I think we should approve this rezone.
I agree with Mr. Reed. Mr. Hale has been a stalwart in that area, saving that building. And I would encourage board members to take a chance to see what he's been able to do with that facility. It's quite remarkable. I think it is a good effort as he has cleaned up that community. I think it's also, with the conditions that are outlaid, I think feasible expectations for the neighbors, or at least whether they agree or not. I think it is at least a good push to produce some screening. I do understand the concern of the future. What does M1 look like? Because we also don't know. That is very valid. We just had one of our first discussions, I think recently, on where those things should go. I think by the railroad tracks in the downtown Arrington, I mean, it's an all around. I still err on the side of approving this. So when the time comes.
So Dylan, I have a question. So, say this passes and it's industrial, and then we do our change in zoning, and let's just say there's a height requirement and they surpass it, or I don't know what random detail it will be. Is the old non-existent rules apply to them, or is it the new? Walk me through it.
So there's non-conforming uses, structures, and lots. And there are different implications for each of those, but essentially, the overarching principle is that as long as a permitted use continues, does not stop for more than 2 years, it is permitted to continue as it always has, until you hit that 2 years. So say the storage units get taken off of there and then 2 years goes by, then it's no longer, and the code has changed. then it's no longer a legally vested use. As long as that these lots continue to operate as they have been permitted, that's the key, permitted, then they're allowed to continue. So that's the whole impetus for bringing this to you initially, was because this was not a vested use on that R1 lot. So it was never permitted as such.
And so you had a choice to either comply or rezone.
Correct.
How long has it been going on?
Sorry.
How long has he been doing this?
Uh,
As far as the 2 years?
I think it came to our attention last summer.
Several years.
It's been longer than that.
How many has it been, Jeremy?
I leased the property for 5 years before I purchased it.
Yeah.
He can legally do what he wants to now.
No, you can't hit the
'cause it's not
statute.
compliant.
What's it, 15 years of using a use until you get the use
That
aggressively?
one might just be for structures. I'm not sure about the use.
I
I'd
think-
have to look.
I'm pretty sure use is in there. Because if you illegally use a use for 15 years, I think at some point, yeah, it might be structures as well. Or I think it might be, I don't know. But
I could,
I would defer to you.
Is there any way, if this were to change hands, it's more restrictive?
nope. Same with the special use permit, it runs with the property.
I wish that we had had the discussion on what M1 and M2 are gonna look like. I mean,
They're very vague at that.
they are, well, and what we have currently, it's wild. I mean, it's complete but not restrictive in any way. And I'm torn.
I believe there are some provisions if the use changes for dust, noise, odor, glare, things like that. Now that said, these buildings are in, the buildings exist already and take up the whole parcel. That's not to say that somebody can come in, tear it down and put an industrial use there is what you're saying.
That's, yeah. Do you know where I'm coming from?
Do I?
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's not what's before us.
How so?
We have a landowner that has applied for a rezoning based on the criterion for M1 and M2. I feel like he has done everything that could be asked of him to try to make his usage of the property concurrent with zoning.
No, he hasn't. There's storage containers and it's not compliant.
I believe staff have put a stay on that until we have resolved this, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, it's in flux, I would say.
Yeah, same thing.
If someone's working towards achieving compliance, there's no need to pursue corrective action because that's what they're trying to do. I guess how I would phrase that.
And so there's no way if this, and I understand the faith in the person. But there's no way to have this residential block, if it were to change hands, not be industrial.
Just for storage.
Yeah, so one of the proffers, was that for that R1 lot, shall be utilized only for outdoor storage and residential uses, no other industrial uses permitted. Now, that's just for the
That corner.
R1 lot.
He proffered away most of it.
And that sticks with it the whole time.
Correct.
Any other discussion?
And as you know, in our homework assignments for our work session, this was one of the study areas for how to look at zoning. Already established as somewhat mixed use. It's agriculture, industrial, residential, there's some home occupations. So there's railroads right there with more R1 zoning. You cut around the corner, I think there's one B, one lot. So it is difficult.
There's genuinely mixed use there.
That would be my interpretation, absolutely.
Okay,
Madam Chair, when you're ready.
I'm ready.
And that said, we don't have a mixed use district yet, which is why I struggle.
Madam Chair, I move that the Board of Supervisors approve rezoning request 250339 of tax map number 77A45 from R1 residential to M2 industrial, and tax map number 7731 and 2 and 77A5 from M1 to M2 with the proffers as shown on the screen. And I will read them aloud. Condition number 1, the areas delineated in green on the site plan submitted as part of the rezoning application shall remain open space for a distance of 75 feet from the center of the road. Condition number 2, the area delineated in red on tax map number 77A45 as shown on the site plan submitted with the rezoning application shall be utilized only for outdoor storage and residential uses. No other industrial uses shall be permitted. Condition number 3, should a dwelling be constructed within 100 foot of the property lines of tax map 77A45, the owner shall construct a fence for screening acceptable to the planning director within 60 days of the issuance of a certificate of occupancy.
All right, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second,
All right, we have a motion and a second. We'll do a roll call
we're gonna
vote.
have any discussion?
Oh, sorry,
Yeah.
discussion.
Anybody before me? I mean, as I said last time, I have the utmost respect for the applicant, and after a recent visit and tour of the facility, even more so. What he has done down there, what he has going on, what he and his wife have built is amazing. The facility is something to see, and if you haven't been down there, you really need to go. That being said, I feel I'm not comfortable approving rezoning for an individual, and I feel like that's what we're doing, and making accommodation for the individual, not for the map. And I know it's mixed, I know it's a lot going on there, but I like the way that the road separates, and we have the M1 here and the residential here. And so for that reason, I'm gonna be voting to, against the rezoning, but, you know,
Would you,
go ahead.
would you be willing to vote on rezoning the two tax map
Get
numbers?
this maps.
Splitting it up is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I like that.
And what, those are the, Dylan, can you help us with the difference between 1 and 2?
Sure, yeah, so these parcels here, the blue ones,
Yes.
those are M1 currently. So you would potentially be rezoning those to M2, higher intensity, to align with their current uses. And then the yellow is the R1. So if you take no action or deny rezoning of the R1 parcel, then they would be required to bring the property into compliance with an R1 district.
So I'm reading that 77A5, is that what that says?
77A45. Is that
Okay.
right? Which is,
So
Under number
5, 77, 3, 1, and 2. These two. This
Okay.
is 77A5 and A46.
He's got,
It's just a lot going on in one motion.
I know,
Yeah.
so before, the motion on the table is still the draft
Yeah.
motion number
number
1.
1.
And what why I stick with that motion is because, I mean, I really think in that little corner piece, I understand the interest in having that road be a border. When we get to the mixed use aspects, that what we're gonna see is you're gonna see a lot of red and blue and yellow kind of come and collide in areas such as Livingston and other places. To me, it's not contradictory to have that here. I mean, the cold storage building that's been there for a long time. How long has that building been there anyway, Jeremy?
Longer than all of us.
Okay. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So this thing was industrial before industrial. I mean, during the Industrial Revolution, in some regards, when the zoning had to get created. I still favor the draft motion number one, as is the motion that is on the table at this time. And Madam Chair, if there is not a consensus for that motion, I would suggest that you go to the second motion after that. If that would be an easier way for you to find a consensus.
I guess there's only one way to know.
That's just very true.
Any more discussion? Well, the motion on the table is all of it.
Correct.
All right. So I guess I shouldn't even talk about what's what yet.
Yeah,
Or
and just
we may
from
not
my
even get there.
standpoint, I would lean toward motion number 2, if that were something we were gonna be considering in a few minutes.
Yeah.
So,
All right.
I have a motion. Did we get second?
and a
David
second.
And there was a
I second
second.
it, yeah.
So let's do a roll call vote.
Discussion.
Mr. Reed,
Yes.
Mr. Parr,
No.
Mr. Rutherford,
Yes.
Mr. Linehan,
Yes.
Dr. Lipp.
No. All right. Passes. Ay, ay, ay. Wintergreen Fire Rescue 80/20 program. Thank you, Dylan.
Oh, thank you.
80/20 program truck order request. Hello.
Hey, how are you? You want to ask me questions? I do want to start by just saying thank you all. I've had the opportunity to observe several meetings in the last couple of months. You guys have a full-time job.
We
Lots
work
of
hard for that
emotions.
$9.23.
I won't say it's been fun to watch the process work, but it has been interesting. I appreciate what you're doing.
Do you just want to give us a quick summary?
Sure, so we, Wintergreen would be next year's position in the rotation of fire departments that you guys assist with capital procurement. But we have agreed to switch positions with Rockfish. They would be this year, we would be next year. We're switching, they need a little bit more time to work on what they're doing, which is a remount. We are just looking for a cookie cutter, sending it down the line engine. We went out for competitive bid. We took the lowest bidder. It's a company called Sutphen. We dealt with them back in 2006 on our ladder truck. We haven't dealt with them since then, but they've been a good company. We don't have any issues with going back to them.
Anybody have any questions for Mr. Sheets?
This truck would not be delivered until July or August of next year.
Do we run of any chance in 2028 of this price fluctuating without locking in a price?
On this contract,
Yes.
as I understand it, no, it's locked because it's a program truck.
Okay.
It's interesting. So there's a clause in there that talks about warp. But if they were gonna trigger that, it feels like they may have done it already, but,
We got Iran going on.
yeah, who knows? But it does seem pretty solid.
Yeah.
And if there was a fluctuation and it exceeded your all's budgetary constraints, we would certainly
Okay.
adjust the percentage.
Because Piney River just went through that, didn't they?
What Pine River,
And father did
the
something.
issues that they ran into was every time they waited 30, 45 days, 60 days to actually sign the contract, it was increasing in those time periods.
Okay.
And so that started a conversation with Mr. Parr and the group about, hey, can we go ahead and lock into these contracts earlier, even though we
Yeah.
can't take delivery for a while. Yeah. And this particular vendor would give us about a $25,000 discount if we could pay in cash up front. but we can't, so there's no point in talking about that, 'cause we just don't have that kind of money right now.
25, you said
25%.
25,000.
$25,000.
Oh,
thought it was-
okay.
I thought it was
25%,
percent.
I was
Yeah, it
like,
works
we're
out to be
finding the
about
money.
2.5% is what it works out, and it just doesn't, the math doesn't match.
Fair. Okay.
Mr. Parr, you're on that committee, ain't you?
Yep. We ready for a
I
motion?
am ready.
All right, Madam Chair, I move that we adopt resolution R 2026-39, Nelson County Board of Supervisors, approval of 80/20 truck order request for Wintergreen Fire and Rescue as presented.
Second.
All right, got a motion and a second. I'm feeling, any discussion?
Just acclamation.
All right, yeah, that's what I was going with. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed,
Thank you all.
thank you for
Thank
your
you.
kind
Thank you,
words.
Curtis.
County office space updates.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, you do have in your packet a memo regarding this subject. I'll just run through it really quickly, if you don't mind. So just a little background, in response to Commonwealth's attorney space and security needs, the board staff has been looking at options that would accommodate their request while maintaining their location within the county courthouse complex. It was discussed that the most viable options were to either relocate county administration and finance or the school division administrative offices for the Commonwealth Attorney's occupation. I did include a memo in the packet dated August 18th that spoke to all of these things and was discussed in the public meeting. The board then asked staff to follow up on the relocation options of the Nelson Center and the old CVET building, which is now occupied by Moss Labor. In addition, the school division was asked to work concurrently to evaluate any potential options, including existing building space they have available. In the school division's review, back in September of 2025, Mosley Architects provided a cursory review consisting of square footage, pros and cons, and an estimated design, bidding and construction timeframe for several options, which included the Nelson Center, the high school Alpha Wing, high school storage building, and Rockfish River Elementary School. In March of 2026, Mosley took a closer look at the high school Alpha Wing space and provided a possible office layout within the existing spaces, with the exception of a school board meeting room. Those memos are also attached for your review and discussion. County staff got some feedback from the Nelson Center, and as of March 2026, we requested, the following requested information was received by county staff. They did respond that the Nelson Center is equally owned by the Jefferson Area Board for Aging and the Nelson County Community Development Foundation. It's managed by a committee of 2 people from each board and staff. A schematic is attached as well as a list of tenants and their spaces. There's only one room that was vacant at the time. They also indicated that Java was interested in selling their share of the Nelson Center, but had not indicated a price for that sale. The sale to another partner or the sale of the entire building must be agreed upon by both boards of both partners. A detailed operating profit and loss of the center for the past 3 years was provided and attached, including detailed annual operating expenses. The feedback on the old CVEC building occupied by Moss Labor as of September 25. The owners have made various improvements to the property and or the site since the county's last evaluation in 2023. There's been no change in the status of the ownership of the back piece of property, and they are not able to comment on the status of the propane business located there. And they do currently have a long-term lease tenant, that's Moss Labor, until around 2034. So given all of this information that was provided herein and attached, staff is recommending that the board consider formal action to 1, designate the school division and administrative offices for relocation. 2, designate the high school Alpha Wing as the preferred option for further long-term relocation study by the school division, inclusive of rough estimates, timelines, and potential financing options. And then also provide a commitment of local funding for the costs of this study, which would be to be determined. And, and that would be pending receipt of a cost estimate for this work from the school division. So happy to answer any questions or facilitate any discussion on the materials provided. And I do believe the school division staff is here in case you have any questions that they can answer.
I have a question concerning under the Nelson Center, item 3. Is that something that would need to be discussed during closed session, or could I make a suggestion that might refer to item 3?
Probably either would be appropriate, whatever you are comfortable with on that.
Okay. Because you know, certainly it's good to get the estimate for what it would cost to move the, you know, to move facilities to the Alpha Wing, but I think it would also be valuable to consider finding out if there might be a lower cost option that might work out. And item 3, I think, speaks to that to some extent. I think it would just be valuable information to have before making a decision.
How much are we spending on these studies?
Well, that is to be determined.
They send the bill afterwards?
No, you would negotiate that up front, but we don't know what that is yet.
I just seen
'cause it hasn't
Mosley
been
on
done.
here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, so it would be, you know, pending receipt of that, cost determination.
How many offices are needed?
For the school division. Let me see, we have, in terms of square feet, 5,400 square feet. Let's see. Hold on. 13, it looks like, on the sheet, and then 5-year forecast is 13 to 15, depending on the needs of the division and students at the time.
Madam Chair?
Yes, sir.
Would it be appropriate to defer a decision on this until our evening session, at which time we will be entering into closed session, which I believe would cover a brief discussion about item 3 under the Nelson Center that might be information that would be useful in making a decision?
I think that's fair.
I think so.
The closed session is not in the evening session.
Correct.
It's in.
Oh, it's, I mean, after
Yeah.
this one, then we discuss at the evening session. Yes, I'm sorry. Thank you.
Do we
Okay.
need to, does the, I guess, yeah, you're right, it should read appropriately.
Yeah.
Do we have to specify anything before we go in, Phil? If we're,
What are the
You have-
reasons?
You have all the closed session motions.
no, I understand, do we need to amend that?
I don't believe so,
Yeah,
no.
it should fall under
It should fall
what we're
under
doing
what's
anyway.
Already established.
All right.
Yes.
Okay. We're gonna do this last one and then take another bathroom break. Proposed fees, increases for planning and zoning. Hello, sir.
Good afternoon, board. You all are having a splendid afternoon.
It's been a good one.
I'll try to keep my presentation brief. I don't want to get in the way of the bathroom break.
You got it. Slide 6.
So today's presentation is just about a preliminary discussion of a new fee schedule for the planning and zoning department. Unless Dylan can speak to it, I'm not sure this has happened for a very long time. And we can go over why that is technically a good thing for developers, but not necessarily a good thing for the average resident of Nelson County. So the purpose of updating the fee schedule is that we believe that it would be important to advancing some of the goals outlined through the 2042 comprehensive plan, including the evaluation of applications against the community's vision outlined in that plan. We also want to support current and future technology use, and we want to manage the responsible growth of Nelson County, maintaining its rural character as best as we can. Additionally, we want to introduce some new advertising methods, because that is our probably one of the biggest things that we get feedback on, is that we don't advertise public meetings well enough. We do post them to the county website as best as we can. We send mailings out, and we also post an ad in the newspaper. I would like to post physical signs on properties in the future. We'll have to figure out a few things as a department as to how much that would cost in the future, as well as where we would be able to store them. Excuse me. In addition, there are some other things to consider, as in at the moment we're not recovering the amount that the department spends on administrative processes, including things like rezoning, special use permits. It's our intention to recover those costs, not necessarily to have a line of revenue that's outlined in the State Code of Virginia, is that we can reasonably recover costs, but we're not here to make a profit. While lower fees, like I said before, can be good for people interested in development or building a house, establishing a business, things like that, it does pass the burden onto the taxpayer as far as paying for these public processes to carry out at the moment. So the good news is that we have the lowest fees around. In fact, a lot of them are free. But the bad news, not to keep beating a dead horse, is that that burden gets passed on to the average taxpayer of Nelson County, even if they don't have anything to do with our department throughout their lifetime. Our department currently completes, like I said, multiple reviews that have no associated fees, as we'll see. These include zoning permits, home occupations, short-term rentals, and zoning determination letters. I did look at surrounding localities to get kind of a baseline on what their fees are. I don't think in a lot of these case scenarios it would be appropriate to charge as much as they do for some of their services. And we're not looking to copy them. Like I said, we want to recover reasonably what the department spends in these public actions and applications. So here are some of our current fees for just day-to-day zoning applications, including zoning permits. I just added general zoning reviews for building permits, because that's not an application that we have listed to our website. It's just kind of one that comes with the application, building permit application, I mean. Some of these, I included a chart in the packet. I wasn't able to fit it into the slideshow, so I apologize. Some of these are more rare than others. I've also found that there is somewhat of an issue with past record keeping as far as these go. So that kind of, to go back to modernizing technology for the department, it would be nice to digitize a lot of these old records so that they're more easily accessible, not only for us, but for anybody in the public that's interested. The proposals that you see are kind of the midpoint from what I've found from other localities, and what both Dylan and I believe are fair to recover staff time when it comes to review. Here we have our site plan applications. Some fairly moderate increases to these, as they will have a lot more stringent criteria with the ordinance update. Subdivisions, this might be one of the largest increases we see. Now, I did add in the proposed an additional $50 per lot. These are just ballpark figures. You all can decide if that's appropriate or not with subdivisions. We currently do that with a lower fee of $15 per lot. But the larger the subdivision, the more time it is to review. So that was staff's thinking behind that. Family subdivisions, actually lowered those to make them slightly more accessible to the public. Fairly common applications that we get for people trying to pass land down through generations. So we want to make that more accessible to the public. And a simple thing like a boundary line adjustment or vacation, we think the current fee is appropriate for that, so no need to change. Things that require public hearings, such as special use permits, and zoning map amendments, zoning text amendments, and quasi-judicial applications like variances and appeals that require a lot of advertisement and staff analysis. As you can see, we've raised all of these kind of to the midpoint as well, to recover things like those mailing advertisements, newspaper advertisements, and hopefully eventually those on-site sign advertisements. Like I said, these are only to be a policy framework for the future. We can sit down and go through future meetings to discuss these figures. Another thing that you may wish to do, and we'll have to, I know other localities do this, we'll have to see how it could or could not work here, and I'm not sure which section of the state code pertains to it, but you can scale certain uses. So some that are more intense, like solar facility, do I dare say data center, things like that. You can make a more expensive review. The public process justifiably would be a lot more intensive. You could also do that with rezonings as well. Like today we saw a rezoning to M2, slightly more intense uses involved. You can scale that. We can look into that. I will say though, it can make the application process a little bit more confusing for the public if we advertise a $600 special use permit and they want a junkyard and they say, well, why is it almost $1,300 instead? That's about all I have to say today. Do you all have any questions for me?
Is this, obviously the board usually sets the rates for building permit as well as this.
Mhm.
Does this trigger a public hearing?
Yes.
Okay.
So that's why I think, it's proposed that this wouldn't be implemented until the new zoning and subdivision
Sure,
ordinance is implemented.
that's very valid.
So that way it could just track with those public
With that.
hearings. And plus, it needs to go to planning commission first too, since it's part of the zoning.
So we're a ways away from.
Yeah, like I said, this is all very preliminary, and I'm looking for feedback from you all as well to see what is, may not be appropriate.
I think, one of those pieces in there, and of course, related to the short-term rental and the recurring, that would be one that I am certainly interested in seeing applicable, but tied to the enforcement of short-term rentals. Mr. Reed and I, over years past, have often said that a singular individual could just spend their whole life just being dedicated towards short-term rentals, whether that be planning and zoning, Commissioner of Revenue's office, but something of that nature. It may be nice to have that for, if not enforcement, tax collection purposes.
Yeah, so our new software actually will identify online listings that don't have a homestay permit.
Yeah.
So
Don't we have it? Aren't we supposed to be getting that software soon already through the?
We have it.
We have it.
Yeah, that's what I'd say, yeah.
We're like 2 months in or something.
Okay. Got it. It's just a little baby, okay.
Yeah. Does it make sense to place this in the hands of the planning commission for proposed rate changes and give them a chance to hash it over before we see it, and then give us a chance to benefit from their comments on it without having to bat things back and forth? I think they seem to be the first line of offense on this in terms of coming up with realistic rates for us to consider.
yeah,
In addition to you.
if that pleases the board, then we can certainly pursue that avenue.
So that would be the process. It would go to the planning commission with the new zoning ordinance and subdivision ordinance first, and then get hashed out there before it comes to you all.
Right, but in terms of having a draft to consider, it seems like they would, maybe, they would do some heavy lifting and then we would do the modification if that makes sense, yeah.
Yeah.
We appreciate you bringing this to us.
Thank you all for your time.
All right,
Thank you.
take me up
All
on
right.
Bathroom break.
Yeah.
Okay, I wanted to just, before we go on, still under unfinished business, my intention with the office space update was not to keep you all here until tonight. It really was to postpone a decision on it until after we have an additional consideration. If we have any questions about the proposal as it exists and the stuff here, maybe it's more appropriate to do it now so you don't have to stay until later for that to happen. That's up to the chair and y'all.
my indication, I don't have much, but Alpha Wing is kind of, where I've been leaning. I don't know.
I think it's fair we have our discussion and we send them the questions we have.
I don't have any questions.
But
Okay.
right now,
Okay.
okay. So I'm sorry. Hope you enjoyed it. All right, we're gonna do a bathroom break and we'll circle back here at 5:20.
Yep, y'all ordering us.